Welcome everyone to the 145th Celebrity Synastry chart reading, where we will be looking into Lisa and Mingyu. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Adeline and it is so nice to meet you. On this channel, I look at the dynamic between two celebrities using astrology. For those new and returning, I take notes on a Synastry chart looking at the personal planet signs aspects and of birth times available house overlays. I share these notes and add my extra insights and interpretations along the way. So if that sounds good to you, subscribe and click the bell to join us weekly, and let's get right into this one. Starting off with the sun, we have Lisa's sun in Aries and also Mingyu's sun in Aries, so same sign. They respect each other's lives and they're competitive. Someone can easily get hurt and they either respect or despise the other. That would be a very interesting dynamic, especially if they're like in the music industry together. Too much emphasis on being an individual. Lisa's sun overlaid in Mingyu's 10th house. Lisa sees Mingyu as an authority figure and Lisa believes she deserves respect from Mingyu. Mingyu enjoys the respect he deserves from Lisa, so I assume, because we did just say they either respect or despise each other, I assume this will be leaning towards the respect side of things rather than despise. Lisa accepts Mingyu without thinking, and Lisa thinks Mingyu is more intellectual than her. Mingyu's sun overlaid in Lisa's 10th house, so this is a repeated overlay, just inverted. So Mingyu sees Lisa as an authority figure, which I feel like is an interesting dynamic. If they are competitive but also respectful of each other, like it's kind of like a weird, I don't want to, not like a frenemy situation, but like I'm imagining a sort of like love-hate thing. Like, yes, they respect each other, but they also want to like defeat the other. It's like a weird, like a sort of, you know, rivalry type thing, if that makes sense. Mingyu believes he deserves respect from Lisa, and Lisa enjoys the respect she receives from Mingyu. Mingyu accepts Lisa without thinking, and Mingyu thinks Lisa is more intellectual than him. Lisa's sun conjunct Mingyu's Saturn. Lisa needs to learn to not be so sensitive to criticism, and Lisa is resentful of Mingyu. I'm not sure where that would be, because from what we're seeing, they seem to view each other pretty equally. There's nothing the other has on the other, but very early days. They need to make time for fun. I mean, from what we're seeing, it does seem to be very, I guess, like career-oriented, just considering of what they both do. You know, they're both in the music industry together, and we're seeing, you know, they see each other as an authority figure. There's this respect thing going on and too much emphasis on being an individual. They can overcome obstacles together and relationship strengthens over the years. They are able to depend on each other, and Mingyu needs to learn to stop being so critical. Mingyu can be threatened by Lisa's individuality, so I assume that is where the competitiveness can come in. Mingyu has the tendency to oppress Lisa, and Lisa's vitality diminishes after being with Mingyu. Potentially that is where she may resent him. Lisa's sun sextile Mingyu's Uranus. They start as friends. I'm not sure if they are in a relationship of any kind or if they're rumored to be in one. From what we're seeing so far, I feel like this seems to be a bit more like career-oriented more than anything else. So I guess we'll see a bit more, hopefully, in terms of like friendship or whatever. It's a relationship of freedom. I mean, if both of their priorities are to be individuals rather than anything else, it would be, I imagine, a relationship of great individual freedom anyway. Lisa is attracted to Mingyu's originality, which is where I imagine the whole thing with Lisa thinking that Mingyu is more intellectual than her, potentially in that sort of original creative way. They enjoy intellectual conversations together and they encourage the other to be themselves, which I assume would be coming a bit more into on Lisa's end more than anything else. Like, because of Mingyu, I guess you could read it as he's just critical of Lisa because he wants the best for her. But we did see the whole thing where her like identity feels like very repressed around him. Frequent changes occur in the relationship, which we did see they're able to overcome obstacles together. So I assume this is something that's not, you know, a big turbulence in their relationship, you could say. Lisa finds Mingyu to be inspiring and exciting, and Lisa may feel threatened by Mingyu's lack of limits. I assume this would be in terms of like criticism. Maybe Mingyu is someone that is a bit too honest and a bit too blunt and has a sort of like lack of limits in terms of like thinking before he speaks or just spits out whatever. They both have strong attraction to the other, and relationship works best when they both encourage the other's independence. So I feel like this really is leaning towards a sort of like career friendship thing more than anything else. if their independence is like the key thing here. Lisa's Sun, Trine Mingyu's Pluto. It is transformative and a productive relationship. Like, I know I've definitely been saying this is more career oriented. We haven't really seen a whole lot when it comes to working together. It seems to be more of like encouraging the other two to do what they're doing. They are fascinated with each other and they both want to get to know each other deeply. Mingyu inspires Lisa to dramatically transform herself. That it's not really bad as such. It just worries me a bit because it seems like Mingyu in a way is trying to change Lisa. Like, it seems like, his criticism of her is, making Lisa feel bad and everything. And like, in terms of that, making her identity go repressed and everything, which you could also read that as like maybe her bad habits are repressed or something like that. Mingyu's Sun conjunct Lisa's Mercury. There is good communication and they enjoy learning together. They have a productive domestic life, which for these musical people, normally I read that as like, if they're not in a relationship, as some sort of like touring thing. I imagine they could have toured together at some point. I don't believe they are in the same group or anything like that. So I assume in terms of like touring, this is where it would be there. They share and talk about ideas and Lisa values Mingyu's views. She seems to value them a bit too much, like really putting him on a pedestal in terms of like being this great influence and like mentor in a way. Lisa feels free to speak around Mingyu. Mingyu's Sun sextile Lisa's Jupiter. Mingyu energizes Lisa and they are good travel companions. Lisa is generous with Mingyu. I mean, in terms of like her time and like, allowing him to, really influence her, definitely. Mutual respect remains after the end and they both want to make the other happy. Lisa opens up new doors for Mingyu. That's interesting. I assume because we did say transformative and it wasn't necessarily, it's transformative for one or the other. It's a mutual thing. So potentially maybe that is where Lisa helps Mingyu in terms of like maybe a connections or something like that. Lisa boosts Mingyu's confidence and Lisa frequently gives Mingyu the benefit of the doubt. Not surprisingly so, like she seems to really put him on a pedestal and even though it may not be the most beneficial for her. Mingyu's Sun conjunct to Lisa's Saturn, so this is a repeated aspect just inverted, so everything from before is further emphasized. But also Mingyu is resentful of Lisa and Lisa needs to learn to stop being so critical. Lisa can be threatened by Mingyu's individuality and Lisa has the tendency to repress Mingyu. Mingyu's vitality diminishes after being with Lisa and Mingyu needs to learn to not be so sensitive to criticism. I find it very interesting so far with the repeated things we have seen, or I should say inverted repeated things we have seen. The overlays and the Sun conjunct Saturn. With the overlays, there's this mutual like great respect they seem to have for each other and like allowing the other to be themselves and everything. But there's also this Sun conjunct Saturn where it seems like both of them are also repressing the other's identity as well. I'm very curious as to if we'll see a bit more with this because it's just a very interesting thing for both of those things to be repeated. That on one side they're, helping the other or encouraging the other to be themselves, but at the same time they're also repressing that. Now for the intermission, this video is brought to you by me, my Etsy store, Adeline the Astrologer. If you ever watch this and think, hey, I would like her to read my Synastry chart, well, I will. I do personalized Synastry readings on my Etsy store, both basic and detailed. The basic one is very simple to understand. It's not overwhelming at all. It's pretty good for those that are beginners to astrology, just getting the head around astrology, or just as a fun gift idea. The detailed one is just like what I do on my channel, just a lot of insight and interpretation on your chart. So if you are interested in that and everything else astrology and tarot related, readings and gifts, then definitely check out my Etsy store. Links are below. I'm always releasing new things, so definitely check it out if you're interested. You can even just favorite the store just to show your support for free. Thanks for listening and let's get back to the reading. So now it's time for moon. We have Lisa's moon in Scorpio and Mingyu's moon in Pisces. These are both water signs. They sense what is going on with the other and they have a sympathetic bond. I mean, they weirdly have a bit of an in-sync thing going on. They are both very sensitive. Mingyu is forgiving of Lisa, which I assume this is kind of the like matching point because we've been seeing the mutual suppressing of the other's identities and all of that. But we did see how Lisa is generous or giving the benefit of the doubt to Mingyu, which, this seems to be kind of Mingyu's like the same matching energy, I guess you could say, of like they're both forgiving of the other and tolerant of that. Lisa may hurt Mingyu, I'm pretty sure, repeated, and neither articulate their feelings. Living near water will be a good domestic choice. Yeah, not sure if they have any relationship, how serious it is, but I guess you could read this as, normally when you tour, you do tour and perform in like major capital cities. Normally in capital cities, you do have some kind of like body of water where the stadium is near. So I guess in that way you could see it's like they're, touring together, and that's sort of like where they end up together most of the time, is in major cities and all of that. Lisa's moon overlaid in Mingyu's 5th house. Lisa sees Mingyu as perfect. I'm sure in certain ways I feel like you could also read this as she wants him to be perfect, and anything that steps outside of that, she's very quick to criticize him for. Mingyu is flattered by Lisa, and Lisa drops her emotional guard around Mingyu. Lisa feels an emotional connection with Mingyu, and Mingyu appreciates their emotional relationship, which, from what we have been seeing, it seems to be more of like a matter of being in sync. Like we just saw that they sense what is going on with the other. They both enjoy spending time together, and they have lots of fun together, which they have issue, making time for. But it seems like when they are together, it seems like they're fun. Mingyu's moon overlaid in Lisa's 9th house. Mingyu feels Lisa is out of his league. So we're seeing these weird things again, like there's a lot of, I feel like, mutual type things we're seeing with the other. Like they both seem to view each other in a very similar way. Like I feel like if you got both of these, like from what we're seeing so far, I feel like if you got both of these people, separately together, you ask them what they think of the other and everything, I feel like you would get very similar answers. Like they seem to view each other in very similar ways and the relationship quite similarly. Because, we just saw Lisa sees Mingyu as perfect. Like, they seem to have these very high standards for the other that they're wanting to keep the other accountable for, if that makes sense. Mingyu idolizes Lisa, and Mingyu brings out the best in Lisa. So yeah, it definitely seems like, I don't want to say mentorship thing, because they're both the same age. So it's not necessarily like one is more like, wiser than the other, so to speak, or anything like that. It seems like, I guess, like, really pushing each other to do their best. There's a possibility for long distance, and Lisa may become emotionally attached to Mingyu, which we kind of did just see. Lisa may become dependent on Mingyu, which I feel like this would be in terms of like emotionally, we're just seeing. But in terms of, I guess, in a weird way, like his criticism and maybe really wanting his opinion on stuff and like really relying on that. They share similar attitudes on politics and religion, and there's mutual respect, admiration, and affection. Like, I do see that. It just seems to be like a very, like, harsh way. Like, this is not going to be the best example and best comparison, but like at the top of my head, like, I'm thinking of in The Devil Wears Prada, like you have Andy and Stanley Tucci, the Nigel, you have them too. There is this like respect they have and like kinship they have for each other, but I guess it is mostly on Nigel's and being critical of Andy. But that's sort of like it demeanor, like they're respectful, but they will be quite critical of the other, if that makes sense. Lisa's moon opposite Mingyu's Mercury. They have insightful conversations, which we did see before. They confide in each other, which we have been seeing how they do have that sort of emotional connection, so I assume it is in terms of like confidency. Lisa questions a lot of what Mingyu says. I wonder in what way. This can't be in terms of like criticism, because she seems to really value that. Lisa's feelings are incompatible with Mingyu's ideas, which I imagine is where I imagine there is like a natural sort of like, repressing. That's probably where she feels repressed. Like, Mingyu has these ideas. She doesn't really feel it, but still seems to kind of go along with it. They both feel different here. I mean, they have a very unique relationship, it seems like. Lisa's moon is square Mingyu's Jupiter. There's a tendency to be extreme and excessive, and they are too optimistic as a couple. I mean, with this dynamic, I would not be entirely shocked if they tried to be a couple, because in one way I can see it kind of working. Like, why I could, if you were in here, I feel like you could kind of see this happening to be a bit more serious. Like, we're both very respectful of each other's careers. you know, we have this emotional connection, everything. But at the same time, it's like, is it really the best for them to be together? Poor judgment can lead to trouble, and there's a failing to keep promises. They both feel free with their emotions and they meet optimistically. It's a relationship about determining boundaries. I 100% agree in terms of, like, I guess how far you let someone push you. Because it seems like that's what they're really doing with the other. Like, you know, being very critical of each other, really wanting the other to change. And it seems like boundaries in terms of, maybe not self-respect isn't the best way to put it, but in terms of, like, you know, how you will change for someone, if that makes sense. They both will learn better judgment, and Lisa may become possessive of Mingyu. Lisa's moon is square Mingyu's Uranus. Lisa is possessive of Mingyu, and the relationship can begin suddenly, which from what we have seen, like, we've seen they start as friends, it's optimistic and everything, so I assume, you know, this sudden whatever happened is a bit more on the optimistic side than not. Lisa feels emotionally insecure around Mingyu. I feel like this would be in terms of, like, the criticism, because otherwise emotionally, like, potentially in terms of, like, feelings and, like, confiding in someone, I feel like she seems to be fine. Mingyu seems to be okay with that and allowing that. But in terms of, like, potentially things like self-esteem and stuff like that, I feel like I see where she would be insecure. Mingyu's moon opposite Lisa's Mars. It's an emotional roller coaster, and Mingyu finds Lisa to be aggressive. Yeah, the only way we kind of have been seeing it is, like, the possessiveness thing, because otherwise the criticism thing, Mingyu also reciprocates that. So unless he's being hypocritical, I don't know where else he would see Lisa to be aggressive. Lisa finds Mingyu to be demanding, I'm not surprisingly so, and they both get defensive. They both react instinctually to each other, and codependency is likely to occur. There is a weird codependency, isn't there? Like, I see that. Mingyu wants commitment with Lisa, which we did see they are too optimistic as a couple, so maybe, I don't know, Mingyu is a bit more interested in pursuing something further with Lisa, maybe? It just doesn't seem like a good idea. And again, this is a bit, you know, reciprocating with Lisa's possessiveness. Like, they both seem to be kind of matching each other here. Mingyu's moon at sextile Lisa's Neptune. Art is a shared interest, and they sense each other's feelings. We're seeing again, they understand each other. I mean, not surprisingly, so they seem to be very much on the same page with things. It's a mystical meeting and a spiritual connection, which I feel like mystical meeting, like, you could kind of, like, see it in that way as, like, a destiny thing. I don't know if they randomly met each other and, like, wow, this is fated, we get along so well, or something like that. But it seems to be, yeah, more optimistic, mystical meeting, you know, a positive fate type meeting. So now it's time for Mercury. We have Lisa's Mercury in Aries and Mingyu's Mercury in Taurus. Mingyu encourages Lisa to focus on physical aspects of life. I wonder if maybe that is where Lisa may feel a bit emotionally insecure, because yes, we have been seeing Mingyu is nurturing of that, but potentially in terms of, like, the criticism he's giving Lisa, maybe he's like, oh yes, validating the emotions, but encourages her to focus less on it as well. Lisa resents Mingyu for his criticism, we're seeing again, and Mingyu sees Lisa as impractical. Lisa sees Mingyu as someone with no vision, and they help each other with their strengths. Lisa's Mercury overlaid in Mingyu's 11th house. Lisa is open and communicative with Mingyu, and Mingyu finds Lisa pleasant, which we have been seeing, like, it seems to be generally good. Like, obviously there's a bit of, like, hiccups in terms of, like, their dynamics, but generally it seems positive. Mingyu looks forward to spending time with Lisa, and they are both tolerant and patient with the other. Okay. Mingyu's Mercury overlaid in Lisa's 10th house. It's hard to talk about things outside of goals and career. It's not really surprising, because they seem to be quite critical, especially on Mingyu's end, seems to be critical in terms of, like, more practical matters. And we have been seeing, like, they both seem to encourage the other's independence and everything. They're a public couple, and Lisa may be fascinated by Mingyu, which I think we're seeing again. Lisa tends to idolize Mingyu, and they may like to work together. It's possibly a one-sided relationship. I mean, we have been seeing, I feel like a pretty equal amount of like both of them being critical of each other and everything. Maybe, I guess, because we're seeing this, maybe there is a bit more on like Lisa putting Kim on a bit more of a pedestal. Lisa's Mercury conjunct Mingyu's Venus. There's flowing communication, which we have been seeing, and they enjoy the same movies and music. They share mutual friends, and Mingyu enjoys conversation with Lisa. They participate in social activities together, and Lisa helps Mingyu verbalize his feelings. So I guess in that way, again, going back to like the confidant thing, and like they're able to talk to each other about anything. Mingyu's Mercury square Lisa's Uranus. They challenge the way the other looks at things. Definitely, I feel like I want to skew this a bit. They definitely challenge each other in the way they look at how to conduct themselves and like, you know, how they go about their identities and everything. They have intellectual conversations, and Lisa finds Mingyu too traditional. Maybe that is where, you know, there's a bit of a conflict with Lisa to Mingyu anyway, because we did see how Lisa, you know, feels her identity is being suppressed. Maybe Mingyu is a bit more traditional, trying to push more traditional things onto Lisa. Mingyu finds it difficult to depend on Lisa. Okay. Mingyu's Mercury square Lisa's Neptune. They think creatively around each other, and Mingyu misunderstands Lisa. They both need to be clearer with communication, and Mingyu sees Lisa as abstract, which I feel like goes back to the whole practical thing. Potentially he sees her as a bit more like, you know, abstract and everything rather than practical, which seems to be where he's at. Lisa feels misunderstood by Mingyu, and Lisa sees Mingyu as practical and logical. Mingyu's trust for Lisa fades, and Lisa feels limited by Mingyu. That I'm not surprised. So now it's time for Venus. We have Lisa's Venus in Aries and Mingyu's Venus also in Aries. It's a relationship of ups and downs, not really surprisingly. So like, I feel like we've seen a lot of good here, but there's also obviously the issue of, you know, I think being very critical of the other and sharing those same negative qualities. They challenge each other, not surprisingly so, and pleasure and fun is prioritized. I mean, I feel like it should be a bit more prioritized, because it seems like, you know, the things we have seen is like, yes, they can have a good time together, but we've also seen they need to make time for it. So I feel like this is something that is more so should be prioritized for them to work better and everything. Neither are afraid of arguing. I don't really see that on either end. I don't know if that's a bit too much of like a stretch, but like both of them seem to be quite like, I don't want to say like, I guess more passive is the best word to each other's criticism, because we haven't seen anything that like they fight back or anything. It's just, you know, they feel misunderstood, they feel suppressed and everything, but it's not, doesn't seem like they're necessarily argumentative with it. Neither like a peaceful, calm environment. I feel like that is why they would be prioritizing their careers and everything, because obviously there's like a lot of chaos, and potentially that's where they work well really together, you know. They clash frequently and they give each other space, yeah, not surprisingly so. Lisa's Venus overlaid in Mingyu's 10th house. Work is their focus and they work well together, not surprisingly so. Lisa sees Mingyu as someone that can help her improve her status, which you could read this as like a very classic publicity way. Like, I'm with Mingyu, boost my publicity. But I feel like this could also be in terms of potentially she really takes on what Mingyu says, because she feels listening to him and like taking on his advice will help her improve her status and everything. Mingyu sees Lisa as having talent in areas he lacks. I mean, in terms of like, I guess she would be, I feel like emotionally they're pretty much the same. It's this like sort of abstract thing that Mingyu doesn't seem to get. Their areas of expertise complement each other and they respect each other's strengths and skills. It's a productive and profitable relationship, and they both want to be the boss. And, well, this one, I feel like, not really surprisingly so. Like, they both seem to be a bit more assertive people, just, like, I guess, I don't want to say submissive for the other, but they seem to, like, bow down to the other, like, really take the other seriously, and, like, whatever they say and everything. Mingyu's Venus overlaid in Lisa's 10th house, so this is a repeated aspect, just overlaid. Mingyu sees Lisa as someone that can help him improve his status. Again, like, I feel like the same thing. Yes, could be just a classic publicity thing, but I feel like because we've seen Mingyu does also take on board what Lisa says and everything. Lisa sees Mingyu as having talent in areas she lacks. Lisa's Venus sextile Mingyu's Uranus. Mingyu likes to keep the relationship exciting and they share unusual interests. I think the only thing unusual we've seen is like what they have spiritual interests. We did see they share similar like political religious beliefs, I feel like, as well. They're an unconventional couple and Lisa is drawn to Mingyu's unique qualities. Mingyu feels appreciated by Lisa and Mingyu finds Lisa charming and attractive. Lisa's Venus trine Mingyu's Pluto. Lisa sees Mingyu as a soulmate. We did see like they are quite optimistic as a couple and everything. On one hand, like if I guess with these two in this relationship, you wouldn't, I guess it's not out of the question for these two to like, you know, do something together. Like as we did see, like they can help each other improve their status and everything. And like, it seems like they do work together quite well. Like they literally just mesh together well. And we did see productive and profitable relationship and everything. And we also did see that Mingyu wants commitment with Lisa. So I feel like there is something that, I don't know, it just, I don't feel like it works in that way. Like I see why they would think it and why they would want this like commitment soulmate thing together, but also does it work? It's emotionally fulfilling, I see that. And it's not likely to grow stale, which goes back to how we saw it's a relationship of up and downs and neither really like stability anyway. They both enjoy growing from the relationship and they want to have children together. That's it. We did see a couple domestic factors in the beginning, so that's interesting. Lisa considers Mingyu irresistible. Mingyu's Venus sextile Lisa's Jupiter. It's materially successful, not surprisingly so, and Lisa finds Mingyu interesting. There's an ability to get over issues, which I feel like we saw a bit more right at the very beginning. They see the good in each other, which I think it's nice because we've seen just a whole lot they're very critical of each other. It's a relationship of growth and they thrive in each other's company. They trust each other and they're a socially popular couple. So now it's time for Mars. We have Lisa's Mars in Virgo and also Mingyu's Mars in Virgo, so same sign. It's an experimental practical relationship. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to be together in terms of like experimenting and all of that. That's the only way I would see that because there seems to be like, you know, like they seem to think there's potential for this to be a bit more serious than not. I don't know how long that would go though, considering their natures and everything as individuals combined together. They both tend to be critical of each other and there is mutual respect. Lisa's Mars overlaid in Mingyu's 4th house. Lisa pushes Mingyu out of his comfort zone, which I feel like would be going back to the criticism she would give him. Lisa can't provide the peace Mingyu wants. Yeah, because we did see how he wants commitment from her. Like that's the problem with these two in terms of like if they ever were to be serious together. As I've been saying, I can see why. I just feel like they seem to prioritize like their careers more than anything, which it's a weird sort of like, I guess, cycle because, and like on one hand, I kind of do see, well, we both prioritize the other's careers, we both respect each other's independence. This will work. But, you know, I feel like in that way, there's, you know, if you're prioritizing your own careers first and you're really around each other, how much of a couple does that make you? And like, how would that work, I guess, if that makes sense? Lisa feels flustered around Mingyu and Mingyu is nurturing to Lisa, which I feel like this would be more emotionally than not. Mingyu creates a safe space for Lisa and arguments are heated due to being defensive and emotional, which we did see the whole argument thing before, so that obviously happens. Mingyu's Mars overlaid in Lisa's 3rd house. Mingyu is more blunt around Lisa, so I assume all of his sort of like, you know, criticism is just something that Lisa in a weird way brings out in him, or I don't know, like he has a lot to say to Lisa. Lisa may intimidate Mingyu and Lisa is sensitive to Mingyu's intensity, which not really surprisingly so because we did see like the whole identity suppression thing and all of that. Their Mars signs are conjunct together, so there's straightforward communication and there's healthy competitiveness, which to be fair, the competitiveness does seem to be healthy. It doesn't, I don't feel like they're trying to undermine each other as such. Like in the beginning, I was leaning towards like, this is some rivalry. It doesn't really seem like undermining though. It seems like just very critical of the other and how they go about things. They identify with each other on a basic level, definitely so, because Again, it seems like they view each other in very similar ways, and they do share a lot of the same signs as well. They inspire each other to do their best. You know, if that's how they put it, that's great. They may be physically active together, so I don't know if we saw anything like that besides like they're sharing social activities and stuff like that. It's easy for them to get into conflict. Not really surprisingly so, because there seems to be a lot brewing and like a lot of reason to, you know, get into conflict and all of that. So that was the final aspect, bringing us to the end of the reading. If you are still watching, please share your thoughts below. I'd be very curious to see what you guys have to say about this one, particularly in terms of like longevity, and that I'm very curious to see where these two go, because it seems like very good work-wise, but it wouldn't, I guess, shock me if they actually got together, if they were together. It just, in terms of where it would go, you know? And if you have made it this far, please consider subscribing for more. I post these readings weekly. And besides that, give this video a like, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! And a shout out to my astrology enthusiasts, Monkey Girl and Sky Games Vlog Hawker. Thank you for supporting the channel. If you would also like a shout out and get early access to new videos, click the join button below to join the memberships. There are 2 tiers, the observers and enthusiasts. So thank you again, Monkey Girl and Sky Games Vlog Hawker, for supporting the channel.